Okay, so a lot of you guys have been asking me, tweeting at me about my pick'em predictions and like predictions in general for the first games. And even though I hate doing predictions in general, I have so much free time, so I just figured why not do a short prediction video. So I'll start with the pick'em ones. The first, there's like the 3003 thing. Now, I mean that's going to be pretty random because it will depend a lot on the matchups. I feel you kind of need to have a little bit of luck in the matchups as well to do it. And the obvious picks would be probably teams like Astralis, Navi, perhaps someone like VP as well if they're coming strong. So between all of these, I actually went with Navi. I feel like they are going to be very well prepared both as a team and individually, and they haven't been playing for a while, so teams don't really know what to expect from them, even in terms of map vetoes and stuff like that. So I went with Navi. Same thing applies when you go for the O3 team, right? You're looking at probably teams like, Hellraisers, Flipside, Liquid, maybe even the French teams, even Godsent, a lot of these teams, because of the potential shuffle rumors, right? You wonder in what kind of a state of mind are they coming into the tournament. So again, that's going to be a bit random. Teams have to be a bit unlucky with the matchups to not win a single game. But I was basically torn between Flipside, Hellraisers, Godsent, and Envy. And between all of that, I went with Godsent actually because I just feel like it would be funny. They were 3-0 in the qualifiers and then they go out 0-3. I didn't go with Liquid because I feel like Liquid is going to beat Envy in their opening game. I feel like they're going to be able to do that. So moving on to the games themselves. Oh yeah, and which are the teams that will go through besides Navi? So I went with Astralis, VP, North, Optic. Those are like your usual suspects, right? I went with SK as well. Who else is there? Yeah, I went with Gambit actually. I was like, I don't know. I just really like the way they played at DreamHack and DreamHack Winter, and if they, just built on that, and don't choke because of the now they're at the big stage or something like that. And they have a lot of experienced players, so they really shouldn't. I feel like Gambit, because of the way they played, that they will be a really strong team coming into this tournament. So I went with Gambit and with FaZe because FaZe also looked much better ever since they added Kerrigan into the team, and that was without them having time to practice, just going from one tournament to another. So yeah, that makes it SK1, VP2, Astralis 3, Gambit 4, Navi 5, FaZe 6, North 7, and Optic 8. Those are my 8 teams to make the playoffs. So now going to the games themselves. Gambit versus North. Now, yeah, this is going to be... this is like not as easy to call as you might think. At least for me, because by now you probably figured out that I, like how Gambit plays. But I also like how North plays, and, they have a lot of talent on that team as well. But for some reason, I just have a feeling that Gambit is going to beat them, like, in this opener game. I can't really pinpoint it too much. There's going to be a lot of unknowns coming into this tournament, right? Teams have been having a lot of time to practice, but yeah, I'll go with Gambit over North. Here, Fnatic versus G2, you have two teams that are, possibly just changing their rosters straight after the tournament. We saw Twist say that they didn't practice that much as a team, then like correct himself saying that they did practice as a team earlier and they feel that they have a good base, so they've been focusing much more on individual skills, so they're on point individually, which is, I mean, okay, but just feels like for a tournament of this magnitude with so many good teams, you really need to put in the hours as a team yourself, right? I don't think that just relying on your individual skills is gonna get you to the playoffs with the level of teams we have here. G2 on the other side, similar story, but they do have a bit more structure than Fnatic, obviously playing for a longer time together. You always have the shocks factor and Scream in that team, but you wonder in which state are they as a team with all the rumors going around. So for Fnatic versus G2, I have no idea. Actually, like Fnatic, haven't seen them in a very long time. I can't remember what I said in State of CS yesterday here. But yeah, I'll just go with Fnatic. Pretty much just based on their individual skill. I feel that they're gonna play maybe super loose because they have nothing to lose if they're making the roster change. So you know the amount of firepower they have on that team, if they just play without pressure, they can be very dangerous. SK versus Hellraiser. Hellraiser's next. Hellraiser's improved a lot, played well in the qualifier, but I think that SK is gonna be super prepared for this tournament. I actually think that Fox is gonna be a great stand-in for them, because at ECS he didn't really even play the game before that individually, right? He was retired to a point, or inactive, however you want to put it. So I feel now that he's had time to play individually, and they had time to practice with him, you know, as a team together, implement him into the system, find out positions that, you know, everyone will be the most comfortable at. You have to remember they have the two best players in the world in 2016. I mean, Fallen and Cold, right? It's not like that they lack firepower in that team. So if he can fit in and do his job for the team, SK can, you know, SK is for me still one of the contenders to win the whole thing. So I'm going with SK here. VP versus Optic, another game that's very difficult to call, simply because with VP you kind of never know. I mean, to an extent, you know that at the major they always perform really well, and they did have a disappointing performance at WSG, but again, VP is a team that can, without a problem, you know, suck at one tournament and then come to the next big tournament and win the whole thing. So here against Optic, a team that has improved immensely in the second part of the year after they made the latest roster changes in September or whenever. So obviously winning ELEAGUE was a big thing for them, and now they've also had time to practice. So VP are the NA Slayers in general, so I'm gonna go with VP only because of the fact that it's a major. But when you look, if you disregard that fact, this is basically who plays better on the day. Optic has what it takes to take down VP without a doubt. So Navi versus Mouse, next game coming in. As I said yesterday in State of CS, Mouse is a team for me that can beat anyone in this tournament. But things have to go a certain way for that to happen. Mouse is a team that in this tournament is probably the most dependent on having a good start, because they have a lot of confidence issues. On the other hand, they have a lot of firepower. So you saw in some of those major qualifier games against Immortals, for example, on Cash, when they get rolling on the CT side, when Nico starts feeling it, Chris J, Lowell, you know, that's a very dangerous core, a very dangerous trio in that team that can match up against pretty much everyone. You know, you have Speedy, who's a great role player, and also Dennis, who has good games as well every now and then from the role of the entry fragger. So that being said, I still feel like Navi is going to come into this tournament very, very strong, that they're going to be very well prepared, that they had more time to adjust, seized more than anything else to his in-game leader role and other positions. They've also had time to just watch how other teams play. I'm very curious to see what their map pool will look like, because that was their biggest problem. They could play like, Train, Mirage, and then they started playing Nuke a little bit, Overpass, Cobble was nowhere to be found, Cash is their permaban. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see, and I am going with Navi here in this opener. Liquid versus Envy. Envy obviously coming off winning like the biggest first place prize pool, the history at WESG. A great playoff performance from MBK in the grand finals as well, who has been a bit quiet in the playoffs recently for Envy, but Envy didn't stroll through that tournament. They barely scraped through, could have easily lost, and maybe even should have lost to Space Soldiers in the semifinals, so wasn't nearly as convincing up until the grand final in itself, where unfortunately Kingwin seemed like they just ran out of steam after taking down VP. On the other side, you have Team Liquid, who have been looking abysmal pretty much ever since the departure of Peacemaker, ever since that tournament in New York. But recently they added Zeus. They have been looking slightly better, but really haven't been playing like in that many tournaments ever since. Played the qualifier for Vegas with high ping and a different time zone, so basically played at like 7 or 8 a.m. I don't think that's a good way to basically picture their performance. So I feel like with Zeus they're going to be better prepared, and I think they will have what it takes to actually beat Envy. So I think Liquid wins this one. Astralis versus Godsend. Again, Godsend, same story about Fnatic. They also had that awful performance in the Las Vegas qualifiers, losing to a Polish team named Pride, who is, you know, team that most of people have never heard about, I mean, including me. So they were 3-0 in the major qualifier, and there you see like the highs and the lows of a team like Godsend. I just feel like against Astralis, who is probably the main favorite to win the whole thing, I feel that Astralis is just too good at this moment and too hot for Godsend to handle. So about Astralis, besides this matchup, a team that obviously always had a lot of talent, a lot of firepower, and ever since they changed Glaive for Kerrigan, I mean Kerrigan for brought Glaive in instead of Kerrigan, right? That's when they really, you know, meshed well together. That's when things really clicked for them. Individuals started playing better. They were all buying into Glaive's system. They've been playing much better as a team as well. And now, again, they are a team who's had time to practice and really grind out the maps and the strategies and all of that. So they will be one of the most dangerous teams at the whole tournament. And the last team, the last matchup actually, Flipside versus FaZe. Now, Flipside is obviously the team that knocked out NIP at Cologne in the decider game for that legend spot and secured a spot for themselves at this major. And ever since that Cologne major, they've been looking terribly. You know, they won like 1 or 2 games in like 20 games, something ridiculous like that. They had a very long losing streak. So yeah, nothing like a team that you would consider a Legends team. I mean, we even joked about it every now and then, about them getting that status. But ever since they brought in Electronic, it seems like, again, he is a good addition to the team, meshes well with Blades' system, and is someone who brought much needed firepower for Flipside, because it was always, it's a conversation about Blade and how methodical he is, how Flipside has this system on the T side, how he's very good at anti-threading their opponents, preparing his team super well, but it was always like they need individuals to step up and play better so they could match up with some of these individuals on other teams, right? So on the other side, you have FaZe, as I mentioned, team filled with great individual players, always were lacking a good in-game leader and structure, right? FaZe spent over a year not making it to the playoffs of a LAN tournament. Now, when you look at different teams that did make the playoffs, and you look at the players that FaZe has or had, you're basically thinking that's almost impossible. I mean, even by chance, they have to make it at some point, but they didn't, and that shows you the impact of having structure and having an in-game leader in the team, right? Kerrigan comes in, immediately they have success, they make some deep runs at tournaments, show some good stuff, have been lacking time to practice, so now they got that, and I'm very interested to see how FaZe will look like at this tournament. You look at the team on paper, they have amazing players, good roles, good distribution of roles as well, so have everything that it takes to be a contender for the title even, perhaps. Why not? Who knows? So yeah, I'm going with FaZe obviously in this matchup. And I think that would be it. Like, I don't want to drag on too long for this, just a prediction video, but I will most likely be doing the same thing I was doing for the major qualifiers. So after the, you know, games end on day 1, I will probably start up the stream the next day, pick out a couple of games that were the most interesting, perhaps, or the most fun, and go through them on stream, where you guys can also like ask questions if you're interested, and I'll do predictions for the next day and stuff like that. So I'll still figure that out in terms of what exact time I'm going to do it. But yeah, that's it. And thanks for tuning in. See ya.